Bucs fans, unfortunately, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are coming off their first loss of the season. The Week 4 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles didn't go their way. However, this week, they're on to Seattle. They're going to travel across the country to face the 3-1 Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to give you guys a game preview, everything you need to know before 4 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. Also, injury updates. There's a lot of injury news for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to talk about all that, as well as the keys to the game. If the Buccaneers do these three things, they might come out week number 5 with a victory, even with all the injuries they have. And then lastly, I'm going to give you my picks, Adam Slivon's picks, for all the games across the NFL this weekend. All that and more on this episode of Fear the Bay. Bucs fans, welcome back to another episode of Fear the Bay, where your support makes all other 31 teams fear the Bay. I'm your host, Dana Morales, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're on to Seattle. And I'm sure the fan base is on to Seattle as well. I'm not going to talk too much about this Philadelphia Eagles game. I'm just going to make a few comments on the game, and then we're moving on to Seattle. I'm really excited about this episode also, not just to talk about this upcoming Week 5 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks, but also show out some new visuals I've been working on for Fear the Bay, some new segment transitions when we get to the preview, some new little animations there. So I'm really excited to show you guys that. If you guys haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. Also, share this content out. If you know somebody who doesn't know about Fear the Bay yet, send it to them, all right? Send it so we can get this out to more great Buccaneers fans like yourself, and we continue to grow and grow and grow Fear the Bay. I love working on this channel. It's amazing, and the fan base we've already been able to cultivate here in the short amount of time has been amazing, very supportive. I love you guys. You guys are truly the heartbeat of Fear the Bay. Let's get to this game real quick. So I'm just going to quickly talk about it again. I did want to make a correction, okay? So during the Pure Report Game Day show, and also during the Frozen Pirates podcast post-game show, the Baker Mayfield fourth quarter interception, his first interception of the year, I said that was a bad decision, a poor decision by Baker Mayfield, a Jameis Winston-esque type of decision to try to make something out of nothing. But afterwards, when I looked at the film, I saw exactly what Baker Mayfield saw. He had a pressure, he rolled out to the right side, he was trying to keep the play alive, and in the back of the end zone, you see the return of Chris Godwin Jr., of course, in week number 4, but you see Chris Godwin Jr. open, he's raising his hand, he wants the ball, his defender maybe 2-3 steps behind, and Baker Mayfield just rips it, right? He just rips it to Chris Godwin Jr., but the problem was, of course, it got tipped. I knew it got tipped, but I just didn't see what he was seeing during the Pewter Game Day show and also during the Frozen Pirate podcast post-game show. So I see what I saw exactly where he intended to go with that ball. If he made that pass, if it wasn't tipped, he would have completed it, and we would have had a different story here. We would have been saying how amazing of a pass and a reception it was by Chris Godwin Jr. But unfortunately, the tip messed up the entire play. So Baker Mayfield talked about, looking back, he should have probably tucked it, ran or just tucked it and, went down. But I like the decision. Zach Baum, the inside linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles, he talked during the week leading up to the Week 4 matchup that Baker Mayfield is a gunslinger. He reminds him of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, two great quarterbacks in the league throughout their time. Aaron Rodgers is still playing right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not as good as he was during his Green Bay days, of course, but two gunslingers, more in terms of Brett Favre, a guy who's just gonna sling it, and a lot of times, those are gonna end up in positive plays, but sometimes it's gonna end up in interceptions as well. But again, it's just Baker Mayfield being a dog, have that moxie, the gunslinger mentality. He's just gonna lay it all out there. So looking back, that was not a bad decision by Baker Mayfield. I saw exactly what he saw looking back, and if he would have made that pass, if it wasn't tipped, it would have been an entirely different, conversation that we're having here. But I don't blame Baker Mayfield for that. I like the aggressiveness. So my keys to the game last week, it was the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line was going to be a problem, and the Buccaneers offensive line needed to make sure they protected Baker Mayfield. For the most part, they allowed a lot of pressures. they surrendered, 2 sacks to the Philadelphia Eagles. One was to Moro Ojomo, who I talked about, leading up to the game, a guy who was number 2 in terms of inside defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman in the league last year in terms of pass rush win rate, only behind 0.2% behind Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs. But he got a sack. And the Eagles were able to create a lot of pressure, generate a lot of pressure throughout the entire ball game. But my 3 keys to the game were the Buccaneers offensive line needed to protect Baker Mayfield, and they needed to keep him upright so he could execute the plays, execute this Josh Broussard offense. They kept him upright for the most part, but they allowed a lot of pressures there. Played disciplined football. That was another thing, because remember, the Buccaneers are coming off that Week 3 game where they had a ton of penalties, 5 holding penalties in the first 13 offensive plays. They cleaned up for the most part that, but you had the turnovers throughout the game. That's not disciplined football. And lastly, I said that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers need to make sure that they protected kicker Chase McLaughlin and also punter Riley Dixon. So the very first drive for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on offense, it ends how? It ends with the Riley Dixon blocked punt. And they take it all the way back. The Philadelphia Eagles take it back for a score. They score a touchdown. The game starts off 0-7. The Buccaneers are just playing catch up after that. That completely killed the energy, completely killed the mood. The heat didn't even become a problem for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's just I want to move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. To Seattle Seahawks game, but those are some things I want to talk about real quick. And the Buccaneers brought in 2 punters to try out this week. They decided to stick with Riley Dixon. Thomas McGahee, the special teams coach, talked about it. It's in Todd Bowles as well. It's an all-inclusive issue. It's players, it's coaches. They know there's a problem there. They're working really hard to try to fix it. We'll see if that is fixed in week number 5. But the Seattle special teams unit is pretty good. I'll talk about them later in the show, okay? But with that being said, the Buccaneers, myself, the fans, everybody, we're on to Seattle now. Let's talk about that game preview now. All right, let's get now into this Week 5 game preview for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And who is the enemy of the Bay this week? It is the Seattle Seahawks. And their offense starts with Sam Darnold. So I am not a sucker. I love film. I love cinema. But I am not a sucker for romance. I'm not a sucker for love stories. What I am a sucker for is a good comeback story. And Sam Darnold has a good comeback story, just like Baker Mayfield does. So we know it didn't work out with the New York Jets. He was seeing ghosts at times. It didn't work out with the New York Jets. Didn't work out with the Carolina Panthers, who they had both Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. And now they're struggling with Dave Canales and Bryce Young. He had a short stint with the San Francisco 49ers, and there he met his then quarterback coach, Clint Kubiak, who now is his offensive coordinator with the Seattle Seahawks. So kind of like a Baker Mayfield, he spent a short amount of time in LA with the Rams, met Liam Cohen, and then they work together, and Liam Cohen becomes obviously the 2024 Buccaneers offensive coordinator. Now he's with the Jacksonville Jaguars as their head coach. But that same type of bond, same type of chemistry that they had, they already knew each other. Then he goes on to the Minnesota Vikings and has an incredible season. We know J.J. McCarthy was out for the entire year. And he just had an incredible season, 14 for 3. Didn't work out in the playoffs, but he showed NFL teams that he is a true starting quarterback in this league. And win record is not necessarily a QB stat. I know that. But in his past 21 starts, he is 17-4. He's off to an incredible start here also with the Seattle Seahawks. He's 3-1 with Seattle. So after the Thursday night football game in week number 4 for the Seahawks against the Arizona Cardinals, and they were wearing their rival jerseys, the Cardinals were, which I like. I know they got some heat at first, but I like them. Sam Darnold talked about what his job was with the Minnesota Vikings. It was just 4 things. It was 4 steps, but they were very simple, but it's winning football. So he talked about with the Minnesota Vikings, and he's doing the same thing now with the Seattle Seahawks. His job was simple. March the ball down the field, convert third downs, convert the money down, take care of the football, make smart decisions with the football, no fumbles, no interceptions, make the right plays. And also, when you get into the end zone, make sure you score. Make sure your team scores when you get into the end zone. So very simple stuff, but it's a winning formula. He's kind of like a good point guard over there for the Seattle Seahawks, and he's he could be at times a dual threat quarterback like Baker Mayfield can. He can make plays with his arm. He's not known as being a scrambler, but when he needs to, he can make first downs. He can make plays with his legs just like Baker Mayfield. So a really good comeback story for him, just like Baker Mayfield is experiencing here in Tampa. So between 2024 and 2025, the last 2 years, he now has 7 game-winning drives. That's Sam Darnold. And that ties him for most in the league with Patrick Mahomes. So, man, he's clutch. What was his name? Mike McDonald, the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, talked about this dude. He's cold-blooded. Just like Baker Mayfield, he has ice in his veins. You know, he's a very calm, cool guy. And he doesn't feel that pressure late in the game when most quarterbacks, a lot of quarterbacks, might feel a lot of that pressure and fall under pressure. These two guys, they're able to, stay cool, stay calm, and help their team win in the final few seconds. All right, running back now. They have Kenneth Walker III as their RB1. He had an incredible, rookie season. He hasn't been able to be as productive as his rookie season, but, he's still an above average starting running back. So this year he has 58 carries, 244 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he's averaging 4.2 yards per carry. Again, he's having a pretty good year for himself. Not anything, too impressive, but still a very good year for himself so far throughout the first 4 games of the season. But the Seattle rushing attack as a whole is something that Mike McDonald talked about as something they want to improve. So they rank right now. So the Seattle rushing attack as a whole, they have a 3.6 yard per carry, average. And that ranks them as the 28th worst in the league, out of 32 teams. That is something they want to improve on, being more efficient in the running game. That's something they want to continue to work on. But let's see if it works, because against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we know since 2019, they have been with Todd Bowles. They have been the best team in the league at stopping the run. So they want to make the running game more efficient. Just like last week, Saquon Barkley wanted to get the ground game going, and Nick Pachulia and Nick Sirianni for the Eagles, and it didn't work out. He was coming in, I believe, with a 3.3 yard per carry average. That's Barkley. And he ended with a 2.2 yard per carry average. So, going up against Vita Vea is not an easy task. All right, so for the wide receivers of the Seattle Seahawks, they have 2 good wide receivers, 2 pretty good wide receivers. One is a young, promising wide receiver. He's off to an incredibly hot start. The Buccaneers are going to have Zion McCollum out there playing outside corner, but the problem is, and I'll talk about injuries later on, but they have injuries to Benjamin Morrison and Jamel Dean that are going to have them sidelined this week in week number 5. So Parrish might move outside. They have a few ideas of what they want to do there. And I'll give you my take on what I believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should do. But when you're down 2 cornerbacks, 2 good cornerbacks with Jamel Dean and Benjamin Morrison, it's going to make it a bit harder to stop these 2 wide receivers for the Seattle Seahawks. But let's get to the wide receivers. So they have JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba. He is a former Ohio State, a wide receiver. He was teammates with first-round pick Emeka Buka, who also is off to an incredible start for his rookie campaign, his 2025 season. So Jackson Smith-Njigba, he has so far 26 receptions, 34 targets. He has 402 wide receiver receiving yards, which puts him at second most in the league. He has 1 touchdown. But this was the interesting thing to me. He has 8 receptions for 20-plus yards. That is insane. That ties him for most in the league. 8 receptions for 20-plus yards. So Sam Darnold is pushing the ball down the field, and he's hitting JSN on those deep ball passes. Also, he has 18 first downs. 18 first downs. He's a chains mover. This guy, you give him the ball, he's going to move the chains down the field. They couldn't hit him in the first half too much. They didn't really target him as much. But the second half, he was on a tear. He did a great job. All right, let's go now to Cooper Kupp. We know Cooper Kupp. He's a veteran. He is kind of like that perfect slot receiver, that Chris Godwin, Puka Nacua type of slot receiver. 2021, he has not been as productive. He's never been able to match, since 2021, his type of production in 2021. He was a Triple Crown winner. He had the most receptions, most receiving yards, most touchdowns in the league, but he is still a good wide receiver. He's an aging wide receiver. The LA Rams decided to move on from him this offseason. They released him. He signed with the Seattle Seahawks 6 days after he was released. He was released on March 12th. He was signed on March 18th with the Seahawks. So he was born in Washington, so it was a no-brainer. He went to school in Washington as well. So it was a no-brainer for him. He decided to go back home. All right, so here's the big thing with their offense. They love to run 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 running back. They love to run 12 personnel. They run this big boy offense, okay? So last week, they ran about, out of 66 plays, they ran about 27 plays out of 12 personnel. And I believe it was Trevor Sikkema, PFF, but he talked about when they run their offense in 12 personnel, their offensive grade, their offensive PFF grade is one of the best in the entire league. So they're very productive when they get into this 12 personnel package. We have two tight ends out on the football field, and they have two very young, very promising tight ends that could pose a problem for the Buccaneers linebackers and safeties this week. All right, so the first one I want to talk about is A.J. Barner. He's a big guy, 6'6", 251. If I'm playing Madden, whenever I'm playing Madden, I draft a tight end like him. He was a 4th round selection last year out of Michigan. So far, he has 7 receptions on 9 targets, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's done a pretty good job this year so far, not just in the pass game, but also in the run blocking game as well. Tight end, Elijah Aroro. He is the other tight end. He's 6'5", also a huge guy, 6'5", 254. He's a rookie out of Miami. He was their 2nd round pick this year. He has 5 receptions on 9 targets, 82 receiving yards, and 0 touchdowns. Sam Darnold almost hit him last week for a touchdown. That just he wasn't able to come out with the ball. It was very tight coverage that he was going up against, but he's running some really good routes. I liked watching some of the Seattle reporters post some of the routes that he was running last week. He's running some good routes. You just hope for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Savasi, Dennis, Levante David, they're able to contain these 2 tight ends because they might have their breakout candidates this year. They're really good tight ends that they have there. On their offensive line, left tackle Charles Cross. They have left guard Gray Zabel. He's a North Dakota State. He's one of the players that I wanted the Buccaneers to possibly draft this year. I know they have a good offensive line, but he's like the perfect Jason Light offensive lineman. Besides the long ginger red hair like Ryan Jensen or Cody Mount, but he's had an incredible season. Let me talk about him real quick. He has an 85% run block win rate, which ties him that puts him at first for all interior offensive linemen in the league. So he excels both in the pass and the run game. He's been the best offensive lineman. He's a rookie. He's only played a few games, but he's been the best offensive lineman for the Seattle Seahawks so far. Out of 97, he's won 97 out of 114 run blocking plays there. He's won 97 of those blocks. That gives him, again, the 85% run block win rate. Really good for himself there. They have Jalen Sundale as their center. He made no starts last year. He was more of a goal line, extra blocker and those type of situations. He was also teammates with Gray Zabel. They're both out of North Dakota State. He was an undrafted free agent, but they have 2 teammates right next to each other. And then the right side of this offensive line, which I see as their big weakness, right guard Anthony Bradford. He's allowed so far 7 pressures, 2 quarterback hits, and a sack. And then also right next to him, right tackle Abraham Lucas. He's allowed 2 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, and 8 pressures allowed. So that the left side is okay. The middle, it's it's wait and see. But the right side has really been a struggle for the Seattle Seahawks. They have a big problem, mostly at right guard, Anthony Bradford, protecting Sam Darnold, also helping in the run game. So again, Gray Zabel has been their best offensive lineman, and he's only played 4 games in this league, but he's their best, offensive lineman. He's kind of having don't want to put it out there like that, but he's kind of like a Tristan Wirfs type of rookie year where he's just phenomenal right out of the gate. So for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's really going to be, for their defense, stopping. I think the run game is going to be a problem. I think it's going to be able to stop Kenneth Walker III, but it's going to be stopping and containing not just the 2 wide receivers, Jackson Smith-Njigba and also Cooper Kupp, but I think I'm most scared, of them going up against A.J. Barner and Elijah Aroro. I think those 2 guys, if Savasi Dennis and Levante David can't keep up, they can have a monster breakout game if the Buccaneers cannot contain them. So again, I think the Buccaneers are going to be able to stop the run, but I think they're going to have struggles at times in pass coverage working up against these 2 huge tight ends, 6'6", 6'5". And again, they love to run 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 running back. A lot of times in the goal line situation also, they play fully big boy. All right, they put a fullback back there as well, and it makes it really easy for them to score in those goal line situations. So for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, they're going to have their hands full. And I'll talk about the injuries again that are going to keep Jamel Dean and Benjamin Morrison sidelined this week, and who's going to step up in their place. We'll talk about that later on. But let's get now to the Seattle Seahawks defense, who the Buccaneers offense and Baker Mayfield, without Mike Evans, without Bucky Irving, are going to have to go up against this week. Bucs fans, want to know how you can help this channel, Fear the Bay, continue to grow and expand? Well, all you have to do are 3 simple things, and they're absolutely free. And what are those things, you might be asking? Well, like, subscribe, and comment. Like, subscribe, and comment. When you do that, when you engage with the content, what happens is YouTube's algorithm continues to push this content out to more phenomenal Bucs fans like yourself. So please, if you have not done so already, like, subscribe, and comment. Those things help me out tremendously, and they help our channel, they help our community continue to grow and grow and grow and expand to brand new heights. Let's get back to the video. We definitely do not want to miss that. All right, so now let's talk about this Seattle Seahawks defense, who Josh Broussard is going to have to scheme up against, and they're not an easy defense to go up against. Let me read you some interesting stats that I found here. So the Seattle Seahawks, throughout the first 4 games of the season so far, they have 7 interceptions. 7 interceptions. They're a ball-hawking team with their defensive backs and linebackers. 12 sacks so far. So they get to the quarterback, they create turnovers, they get to the quarterback as well with 12 sacks so far, and 24 pass defenses. That is insane. So let's get to the defensive special teams here. Their defensive line, they have a very good defensive line. I would say the Eagles had a better defensive line last week, but you know, they have a good defensive line. The Seahawks do as well here. So Jerron Reed, 10-year veteran. He has 39.5 career sacks. He had 7 in 2023, 4.5 last year in 2024. So far, only 1. But he can do it against the run, and he can do it against the pass also. So he has 205 career tackles for loss, 21 last year. So far this year, he has 5 tackle for losses. He has 1 sack in 2025, 9 pressures, 4 hurries, and 4 QB hits, which puts him at 4th in the league in terms of defensive linemen. All right, the superstar, well, him and Leonard Williams, but Byron Murphy II has taken a step forward this year. Kind of reminds me of Jordan Davis last week with the Philadelphia Eagles, who has taken a step forward in this year in 2025. So Byron Murphy II was the first round selection for the Seahawks last year coming out of Texas. He had half a sack last year in total throughout the whole season. And he talked about, when he got a chance to talk to the media, what his focus was during the offseason. He said his focus was working on his pass rush game. So he felt like he's stronger, he's faster now. He spent all offseason focusing on getting to the quarterback, learning how to get to the quarterback more efficiently. And so far, he had half a sack last year again in 2024. So far, throughout the first 4 games, he has 2.5 sacks. So he's a problem there for opposing offensive linemen. He talked about the mindset that's this entire defensive line for the Seahawks have. He says that their mindset is, we can't be blocked. He feels, and Leonard Williams and Reed does as well, that they cannot be blocked by opposing offensive linemen. He feels like he's a breakout candidate as well. He feels like he's finally breaking out into his league. He's coming into his own. And he also talked about the killer mindset that he has against a run. He feels like he's a shorter defensive lineman, shorter nose tackle. He's 6 foot, 306 pounds. He feels like that actually comes to his benefit. So being a shorter man, he feels like that leverage actually helps him out, especially during when he's going up against double teams. So when he's being blocked by 2 guys, he feels it actually benefits him to be 6 foot tall because of the leverage. He's kind of like a bowling ball. He just kind of gets through them. He finds his way through, and he gets to the run and stops the run there. All right, Leonard Williams, he was their leading sack master last year. He had 11 sacks in 2024. So far, he has 2.5 sacks, so he's tied with Byron Murphy there. He was also, his PFF grade last year for Leonard Williams, he played with the New York Jets, he played with the New York Giants, got traded to the Seattle Seahawks a couple years ago. But he had an 87.1 overall PFF grade, which put him at 5th highest throughout the league in terms of defensive linemen. So really good stuff there. DeMarcus Lawrence, they signed him from the Dallas Cowboys during free agency this offseason. He's going to be out this game with a quad injury. Ernest Jones, inside linebackers now. Let me get real quick to other edge rusher, Bo Maffey. So Bo Maffey has had a very quiet start to his 2025 campaign. 0 sacks, 9 pressures, which puts him at 52nd in terms of overall his ranking with the other edge rushers. So we only have 9 pressures, and he has 2 QB hits, which puts him at 30th in the league for edge rushers. So very quiet from him there. Inside linebackers, Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight. So Ernest Jones is the better of the 2 inside linebackers. So he has 6 career interceptions, and 2 of those interceptions have came this year so far throughout the first 4 weeks. He has 2 interceptions. They traded for him last October from the Tennessee Titans. In 2023, he set the LA Rams tackle record, franchise record, with 145 tackles. That's insane. He's a tackling machine, and he could do it against the run and against the pass. So now for his partner, Tyrese Knight, he's been struggling this year against the pass, stopping the pass, working in his pass coverage, duties. So far he has allowed a 105.8 passer rating allowed, which puts him at 44 for inside linebackers. So very bad stuff there. He hasn't been able to keep up. So that works for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' favor. If you're going to have passes, because Bucky Irving's out, if you're going to throw a lot of passes to Rachaad White or do a lot of stuff across the middle of the field, whether it's tight ends, Cade Otton or Devin Cope or Payne Durham, whoever it is, or if you have one of your wide receivers coming on crossing route and they have to go up against Tyrese Knight, I mean, I would throw that pass. I think, if he's going one-on-one up against anybody, I'm going to throw that pass on Baker Mayfield if I see that opportunity. All right, so cornerbacks now. So they have some shuffling because of injury. So Devon Witherspoon, their best defensive player, I would say, is out this game. He has had back-to-back Pro Bowl seasons. He's one of the better cornerbacks in the league. He could do it against the pass, also against the run. I'm not going to get too much into him because he's not going to be playing this game. He is out with a knee injury. So they're going to have Rick Rowland, who's 6'4", 210 pounds. He had a good 2022 season where he made the Pro Bowl, but since then he's had an up and down career. He's had a lot of trade rumors, surrounding him. I know a lot of Seahawks fans are ready to move on from him. They don't like his inconsistent play. He's in a contract year, but he doesn't have that fire underneath him like, you would want one of those guys in their contract year to have. But who's going to step up? With Witherspoon out, who's going to step up? It's probably going to be Josh Jobe, who's going to play outside corner. So you're going to see Josh Jobe most likely. On the other side, you might see Rick Woolen playing outside corner. So there's no Mike Evans for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, but you do again have Chris Godwin Jr., who's going to be in his second week back. And you also have the stellar rookie, of course, Emeka Buka out there. Sterling Shepard, who looked like, it scared me a bit Wednesday. Was he going to be able to be out there? Because the Buccaneers already have a lot of injuries at that position. But he is going to be able to play. That is Sterling Shepard. So they're going to have those three guys as their top wide receivers. All right, at safety, they have Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant so far, he's had 5 career interceptions, 3 in 2024, and 2 so far in 2025. So he's been able to turn the ball over. But his partner, Julian Love, is going to be out this week with a hamstring injury. That's another big benefit for the Buccaneers. So the Seahawks, the Buccaneers have their fair share of injuries, but the Buccaneers are going to go up against a defense versus Seattle that is down 3 starters with DeMarcus Lawrence out, Witherspoon out, and Julian Love out. So one at every level on the defensive line. Well, one at the defensive line and 2 in the defensive backfield. Let's get now real quickly to the special teams unit. So their punt returner is Torrey Horton, and he had a 95-yard punt return in Week 3 versus the Saints. They've been able to block a field goal also. They've been able to block a punt as well. So, I mean, the Buccaneers have had their fair share of struggles against, protection, making sure that kicker Chase McLaughlin can get his kicks off and Riley Dixon can get his punts off. And they're going up against a special teams unit that's a bit scary to go up against, in the return, but also in the blocking. Also, Jason Myers last week had a game-winning field goal. So his career long is 61 yards. I love checking the career longs because if they're in a situation, if the Buccaneers are in a situation where you have to, the opposing team has to go down the field and they have to kick it and try to kick to win the game, I like knowing, how far is the range for their opposing kicker. So Jason Myers has a long of 61 yards. Last year, his long was of 59 yards. And this year, he is 9 for 11. He's missed 2 of his field goal attempts, and his longest is 56. And lastly, Michael Dixon, he's their punter. He's done a great job for them. They haven't needed him much, but when he's been out there, he's been efficient for them. He has a 48-point yard average this year, and he's pinned teams back there 5 times inside the 20 this year. So now let's get to the injuries for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are a very banged up team, and I had the Buccaneers heading into the week. I had them winning, but once I saw Wednesday's injury report, and it got better throughout the week, but still, this is a team that's very banged up. I mean, it just made me feel less and less confident in their ability to win this Week 5 matchup. But let me go through this injury report for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So on Wednesday, they had 16 players on their injury report, and they actually had to change up their idea of what their practice was going to look like. They had to do a full indoor walkthrough on Wednesday because they had so many injuries. They didn't want to get more guys hurt out there. I mean, let me go through this list real quick. So on Wednesday and throughout the whole week, these were the guys on the injury report. And there are a lot of superstar starters, a lot of big names on this list, okay? Jamel Dean, Mike Evans, we know he's dealing with the hamstring. Bucky Irving, that fumble last week, which I don't think was a fumble. I'm not going to go into that because, again, on Seattle. But, I mean, if you saw the replay there, his ankle didn't look good, and he's in a walking boot. He's going to be out this week. He's going to also probably be out next week against the San Francisco 49ers. That's going to be a home game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Christian Izien, Benjamin Morrison, the second-round pick this year out of Notre Dame. Levante David, Greg Gaines, Chris Godwin Jr., who's just coming back, already back on the injury report. Be practicing full at least this week. Logan Hall, Charlie Heck, Baker Mayfield, who's dealing with a right bicep injury. He's also dealing with a knee injury. Zion McCollum. You have Hassan Reddick, you have Sterling Shepard, and I thought, looking at that, he didn't practice on Wednesday. He's dealing with a foot injury. I thought, man, he might be out for this game. Luckily, he was able to practice in full. He's off the injury report now. Tyke Smith, who's been incredible for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense this year. He was on the injury report with an ankle injury. He didn't practice on Wednesday. He was limited on Thursday. He practiced in full on Friday, so that was a good thing. They removed him from the injury report. And also Tristan Wirfs, just like Chris Godwin Jr., he was playing last week, but again, still on the injury report for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So 16 guys. I mean, there's been a lot of injuries throughout the entire league. I think the Baltimore Ravens have 21 players on their injury report. Look at the 49ers, how many injuries they have. It feels like it's a common theme this year that every team is getting hit with the injury bug, and there's nothing you can do against it. And I don't know what the exact reason is why we're seeing so many injuries across the entire league, but man, it's affecting the quality of some games, and it's also affecting, how many guys of your true starters you're able to see every single week out there play and perform. Let's get into the players who are out this week. So, Jamel Dean and Benjamin Morrison. Jamel Dean dealing with a hip injury. Benjamin Morrison dealing with a hamstring injury. They didn't practice the entire week. They're both out for this week. So, Todd Bowles on Friday, when he got a chance to talk to media, he talked about the idea of who might be playing outside quarterback in place of Morrison and Dean. And we know Zion McCollum playing on the other side, who's going to be playing opposite of McCollum. He talked about Jacob Parrish being one of those guys, but also Kendall Vildor, who impressed during the preseason, the offseason, the training camp. And also Josh Hayes, who I don't want to see Josh Hayes out there, okay? I feel like if Josh Hayes is out there, you could throw up the white flag. I mean, if Josh Hayes is out there, man, I didn't like seeing him out there last year and Tyreek Thunderberg out there. So if I was Todd Bowles, if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, here's what I do. So the Seattle Seahawks, again, they like to play a lot of 12 personnel, two tight ends and one running back, and that means there's two wide receivers out there as well, for the most part. So whenever they're playing, the Buccaneers defense is playing their base 3-4 package, and the Seattle Seahawks have, they're in 12 personnel. I'm having McCollum on one side, and I'm having Jacob Parrish on the other side, the rookie. He has the versatility to play inside or outside, of something Mike Beal talked about the night he was drafted in day 2 of the draft of 2025. But when they have to play nickel, when they have to have 3 corners out there or have a nickel back out there on the field and change from their base 3-4 to their nickel package, I would first off elevate Bryce Hall. I would feel comfortable if Bryce Hall was in the game. And I would elevate Bryce Hall this week. That's something that they might do. We'll see with the 2 injuries to Morrison and Dean. And whenever they're in their nickel package, I'm going to move Jacob Parrish back into the nickel because I like him, there versus Cooper Kupp, rather than moving Tyke Smith from safety into the nickel. If they were planning to do that, you don't have Christian Izien this week also. So I would like to see Zion McCollum one side whenever they're in the nickel, Zion McCollum, Bryce Hall, or Kendall Vildor. Either one of those guys I'm comfortable with in a short game type of solution, not like a long season plan, just like a 1 or 2 game thing. They'll help you survive. They help you lead that game, without too many struggles there. But Zion McCollum on one side, Bryce Hall or Kendall Vildor on the other side, and Jacob Parrish at nickel going up against Cooper Kupp. So that would be the lineup I would like to see. I don't want to see Josh Hayes out there. So whatever Todd Bowles comes up with this week to go up against the Seattle Seahawks, I don't want to see Josh Hayes on the football field, okay? All right, so let's see who else. Mike Evans, we talked about him. He's going to be out this week. Might be out next week, but there's a chance that they didn't put him on IR, so there's a chance that he might come back before missing 4 games. But he missed last week. He's going to miss 6 weeks. That's 2 weeks in a row. Might miss next week, but it's a little bit more of an open opportunity for him to return. We'll see how that hamstring is feeling. Again, Bucky Irving out. So Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, and the running back, the undrafted free agent out of LSU, Josh Williams, it might get a chance to be active on game day. We'll see if he gets any carries, but it's going to be a nice running back deal, I think, with Rachaad White and Sean Tucker out there. And I already talked about Christian Izien, but he's going to be out this week as well with a quad injury. And for the Seattle Seahawks, Josh Jones, one of their tackles, out a starter, but Josh Jones is out this week with an ankle injury. DeMarcus Lawrence, we talked about him. He's out with a quad injury. The safety, Julian Love, who was with the Giants before, he's out with a hamstring injury. And then Devon Witherspoon, their best defensive player, cornerback, he is out with a knee injury. So they have 3 starting defensive players out. But the Buccaneers are a far more banged up team, and that's the thing that scares me. But they might escape week number 5 with a victory in Seattle, like they beat them in Munich, Germany. So now let's get to the keys to the game for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, let's get into the keys to the game for the Buccaneers. If the Buccaneers do these 3 things, I feel like even with all the injuries, with all the, the mishaps this team has had in special teams and everything else, I feel like they could come out of this game still with the win if they do these 3 things. So first off, the wide receivers for the Buccaneers. You got no Mike Evans. We saw what life in 2025 looks like without Mike Evans on the football field. And normally defenses can shade coverage his way, double team him, and it leaves guys like Emeka Buka with one-on-one coverage. But if you don't have Mike Evans, they can really double team. They can do whatever they want back there in terms of covering your wide receivers. And I feel like it all starts off with, for Baker Mayfield, your wide receivers have to create separation. I saw a stat that talked about Emeka Buka, who's had a tremendous start to his 2025 rookie campaign. He has one of the worst separation ratings, the worst separation scores in the entire league. I believe he ranks 81st out of 96 qualifying wide receivers. But real quick, so how realistic is that stat? How accurate is that stat? When you have Quinyon, I don't want to return back to the Eagles game, all right? But when you have Quinyon Mitchell fully pulling on your shirt, and there's no holding penalty for that. There's no DPI or anything, but you can see, full holding on Chris Godwin and Emeka Buka, and on the interception thrown by Baker Mayfield, there was holding on Sterling Shepard. I don't want to return back to those games, but those types of things, when you don't get those DPI calls, you don't get those holding calls, I mean, it affects the overall separation rating, right? Because they were playing sticky coverage, but at times, Quinyon Mitchell was pulling jerseys, pulling shirts, and holding. So, I mean, it's hard to create separation when you're being held. But overall, the wide receivers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, create separation in your routes. Make sure you get open, because the right side of the offensive line with Charlie Heck and also Luke Haggard, I'm not confident in, okay? The left side is perfect now. There's things to prove on, but, you feel confident with it. Left tackle Tristan Wirfs back in the mix. The best offensive tackle in the league, in my opinion. Ben Bredeson at left guard. You have Graham Barton back in his original position. He didn't have the best game, but again, you push him out all the way to left tackle. He's a young guy. I didn't like the shuffling for him, but I get it. That was the only thing. That was the way that you felt confident moving forward with life without Tristan Wirfs for a few weeks. But you kicked him outside. You brought him back in. He's a guy, he didn't have the best 2024 rookie campaign, being drafted first round last year at Duke. I just don't like the moving around of a young player. He's not an established veteran. Like, I think Ben Betterson moving from left guard to center and kick him back out, I don't think it has much an effect on him. But for a young player like Graham Barton, I think it does have an effect on him. So I think it's going to take a few more weeks to see Graham Barton get back into form, and I think he's going to excel from this point on moving forward once he gets that rust off for playing center in a live game, not in practice or in training camp or the preseason. All right, so wide receivers, create separation. That's Sterling Shepard, that's Chris Godwin Jr., that's Emeka Buka, and does Tez Johnson get the ball this week, in more creative ways? And when he gets the ball, I know Baker Mayfield hit him 2 weeks ago. He missed him 2 weeks ago on a beautiful deep pass that, would have ended with a touchdown. But Baker Mayfield overshot him. He overshot his speedy wide receiver, and there was no touchdown there, but there was nobody in front of Tez Johnson. So if you caught that, it would have been a beautiful thing to see. It kind of like how beautiful this game is going to be with the Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks both celebrating their 50th anniversary, and both of them are wearing their throwback uniforms. The Buccaneers with their white creamsicle uniforms, and the Seattle Seahawks with their, like, I don't know what color it is, like some kind of royal blue. I don't know what color it is, but this beautiful blue. They have the accent, the green, and of course the silver helmets. But yeah, first key of the game, wide receivers need to create separation. All right, also, no turnovers. Play a clean game. We know I talked about at the beginning of the show, Baker Mayfield had an interception. I get the decision now looking back, but just play a clean football game. When you have as many injuries, when you have as many guys down, like Bucky Irving and Mike Evans, Luke Gadecki out, Cody Mauch, of course, out for the entire season, you can't take these types of risk. You can't play sloppy football. I think they need to play a clean game of football, take care of the football. Whether it's Baker Mayfield or Rashad White or Sean Tucker running the ball, don't have any fumbles, but play clean football and also start off fast. I know Levante David in the post-game speech he gave to the guys in the locker room, he talked about starting fast and not starting off as slow as they've been starting throughout the first 4 games of the season. You want to start off with a lead. You want to start off fast. You want to go ahead in the ball game and make the other team catch up to you. But the Buccaneers have been starting off slow each and every week. Let's see if that changes this week, but we have to see. Okay, so again, no turnovers, play clean football, start fast. I kind of cheated there, but put them all into one key of the game. And then lastly, same exact thing as last week. Protect kicker Chase McLaughlin and also protect Riley Dixon. Okay, so make sure their punts and their kicks get off without them being blocked. Okay, so the Seattle Seahawks already have a block a kick this year. They have a block punt, I believe, also. And last week against the Arizona Cardinals, they're like milliseconds away from blocking a field goal attempt. So this is a special teams unit that knows how to get to the kicker, get to the punter, and block those things. All right, and also in the return game, Torrey Horton, I talked about him earlier, he had a 95-yard punt return against the New Orleans Saints in week number 3. So this is a very dangerous special teams unit with 2 veterans who have been with the team for a very long time, with Jason Myers and Michael Dixon, one at kicker, one at punter, of course. So again, keys to the game. Wide receivers need to create separation, no turnovers, play clean football, start off fast, and also make sure that the kicks and the blocks for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get off cleanly. Thomas McGahee, again, Todd Bowles talked about, they know these issues. It's an all-inclusive issue. The Buccaneers brought in 2 punters to work out this week. They didn't sign them. They're continuing to stick with Riley Dixon. I like Riley Dixon a lot in the offseason, but I feel like he's a little bit too slow with this protection line. But I think you got to speed up your mechanics, speed up your process. But Thomas McGahee says it's not a slow process thing for Riley Dixon. The guys just have to do a better job protecting, but I don't know. I think it's both of those things. I think they have to do a better job coaching, a better job protecting, and Riley Dixon has to get his punts off cleaner and faster. Let's get now to our week 5 picks. I'm going to give you my picks for week number 5 and also Adam Slivon's picks for week number 5 as well for all the games across the league. Let's get to that now. All right, let's get into these week 5 picks. All the games across the league every single week at the end of Fear the Bay. I give you guys my picks, Adam Slivon's picks, and we go head to head. Right now, he has the lead. He picked last week the Eagles to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They couldn't do it. They couldn't make the comeback that they looked like they were going to be able to possibly make. Right now, his record is 46-17-1. The Dallas Cowboys and the Packers game ended up in a tie, so that gave us both a tie. And in my record in second place, just down by 1 game, 45-18-1. So it's been really fun going up against each other. And these injuries make a huge difference, and they're going to continue to make a difference this week because these games can go either way with all these injuries. You never know who's going to win. That's what makes the NFL so fun. All right, let's go through all these games real quick. All right, so the San Francisco 49ers played against the LA Rams on Thursday Night Football. We both took the LA Rams to win that game. The San Francisco 49ers with Mac Jones as their QB1, taking place for Brock Purdy, who's been injured. They won. The 49ers won, so we both lost that game. Let's go to now the Minnesota Vikings versus the Cleveland Browns. We both have the Minnesota Vikings winning that game. The Houston Texans versus the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson is going to be out. They have a lot of injuries on their team because they're so injury plagued, and because of the fact that Lamar Jackson is out, we're both taking the Houston Texans over the Baltimore Ravens. All right, this is a game that we both have a different opinion on. So the Miami Dolphins versus the Carolina Panthers. The Miami Dolphins last week lost Tyreek Hill, and he was celebrating and laughing and clapping as he was being carted off. I think his time with the Dolphins has come to an end. I would have cut him off after what he did at the end of last year, but to each your own, to trade him away. But I'm taking the Miami Dolphins to win this game. Adam Slivon is picking the Carolina Panthers to win that game, so that's one difference there. That's going to, be a really important game for our head-to-head competition here over our record. All right, the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Indianapolis Colts. We're both taking the Colts. New York Giants versus the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints are winless, but they went toe-to-toe last week against the Buffalo Bills, and they made it a close game for the most part. We're both taking Jackson Dart and the New York Giants, who beat the LA Chargers last week to win that game. The Dallas Cowboys versus the New York Giants. This is another game where this is the only other game where we have a difference of opinion. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys in this game. Adam Slivon is taking the New York Jets in that game. It's going to be really another important game for a head-to-head matchup. All right, the Denver Broncos versus the Philadelphia Eagles. We're both taking the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champions, who just beat the Buccaneers in week number 4, of course, going up against Bo Nix. And they have an incredible offensive line there for the Denver Broncos so far this year in 2025. I think the Eagles are still going to be able to win that game, but you never know what can happen. We saw last year in week number 3, I mean, the Buccaneers were supposed to go head-to-head with the Denver Broncos and beat Bo Nix and beat Sean Payton, but they just came out and came out with the upset. All right, the Tennessee Titans versus the Arizona Cardinals, and Cam Ward had some very interesting comments after their loss against the Houston Texans there, but we both have the Arizona Cardinals, who are coming off of a loss on Thursday Night Football, winning that game there against the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans would remain winless if that happens. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Seattle Seahawks. We both have the Seahawks winning over the Buccaneers. But again, I mean, we're both only taking the Seahawks because of all the injuries the Buccaneers have. But I mean, there's a chance that they can overcome these injuries and still come out with the win. I'm not doubting them in that manner. I'm just right now, if I was to play it safe, I would take the Seahawks over the Buccaneers. But there is definitely, if they were healthy, both teams are healthy, the Buccaneers, in my opinion, are the far better team. They're a Super Bowl contender where you got to see if the Seahawks are even a playoff contender, But right now, if the playoffs were to begin today, the Buccaneers would be the 4th seed in the NFC. The Seattle Seahawks would be the 5th seed in the NFC. So this would be the first game the Buccaneers would have to face if the playoffs start today. So it's a good, type of measuring test to go up against a team that is closer to you in terms of overall in terms of talent. The Philadelphia Eagles, they're extremely good. But right now, with all the injuries, this is a much closer matchup. But I think the Seahawks have the edge there. All right, the Detroit Lions versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Without Joe Burrow, they've struggled a lot without him. So we both have the Detroit Lions win that game. The Washington Commanders versus the LA Chargers. We're both taking the Chargers there. And then the New England Patriots versus the Buffalo Bills. We both have Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills winning that game. And the last game here, because the Atlanta Falcons, the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are on their bye week. The bye week start this week in week number 5. We have the Kansas City Chiefs beating Liam Cohen and the Jacksonville Jaguars, who they're coming off of a win against the San Francisco 49ers the previous week. All right, so those are our picks to the game. Those are our picks for all the NFL games for this week. Don't use our information. Don't use our picks, our predictions for betting or anything like that. This is just for fun. We're just doing this for fun. I'm not a guy who gambles in any sort of way. Don't use it for betting. Don't use it for anything. It's just you can compete with us, in the comments or on your own, but don't use this information for anything to take risk. Okay, that's not what this is for. This is just purely entertainment. Let's get now to our closer for the week. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. As always, man, you guys are the heartbeat of Fear the Bay. I hope you guys like the new graphics, the new segment transition, all those things. Again, if you have not done so already, please like, subscribe, and comment. Those things, again, they boost our content out to more great Buccaneers fans like yourself. They make Fear the Bay, our voice, our content out there. It pushes out there more. I'm a one-man show, okay? So all the graphics, everything you see, I say we because my wife is a huge part of this as well because she takes care of her little kid. I have a full-time job, so it's a lot lot of work, but I love doing it. I love the grind. There's nothing more that I love than the grind. I just love, being consistent, being dedicated to whatever I'm doing. And this is a big thing that I want to make sure succeeds. And so far, it has been off to an incredible start because of you guys. So I can't thank you guys enough. Also, make sure you guys share, please. If you know somebody who is a Bucs fan, but they don't know about Fear the Bay yet, please send it to them. So on YouTube, again, it has a share button. You can share it on Instagram, share it through X, share it through text message, however you want to send it. YouTube allows for that. So if you guys can do that, it'll help me out a lot. Let's see what happens with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can they go 4-1? Or are these injuries going to fully catch up to them again for a second week in a row and make them fall to 3-2? We don't know. That's a fun thing about football. You never know how these games are going to turn out any given Sunday for any team. The New Orleans Saints, again, almost beat the Buffalo Bills last week. No matter what, I know it's going to be fun football. I just hope no matter what, no matter if it's a win or a loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're able to not lose any more players in this game, not have any significant injuries in their Week 5 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. I hope you guys like this episode of Fear the Bay. Again, guys, like, subscribe, and comment. And I'm your host, Danny Morales, signing out. Bye-bye, guys.